Today I'm going to walk you through the oil change on a 2013 Audi Q5 with the 3.0T engine. This is a 6-cylinder supercharged engine that's pretty common among the Audi lineup, and so you're going to find that this oil change how-to is pretty applicable for various models in the Audi lineup. Now this is the first time that I've changed the oil on this vehicle, and so it's going to be a learning experience for me. I'll share with you any challenges that I come across during the oil change and give you an idea whether it's worth doing yourself or just taking it into the shop and having them take care of it. So I've got the items that I'm going to need for the oil change. I'm going with a Mobil 1 oil because it was the only oil at the auto shop that met the Volkswagen Audi spec. So this is a European car formula. It's really important that you make sure that you've got the right type of oil with any Volkswagen Audi product. So you can see here on the back, it meets the specification VW 502.00 and VW 505.00. Important that you check your owner's manual and make sure that the oil that you're getting matches that specification. It's very critical to ensuring that you're using the correct amount of oil in the vehicle. Now, at the auto store, they said that I needed 7.2 quarts of oil, so I bought 8, so I had a little extra, and I was able to get to that 7.2. One of the unique things about this engine is that there's not a manual dipstick; it's electronic, and so there's not a good way to, really check the oil as you're adding it to the vehicle. And so it's going to be really important that we put in that 7.2, do our best to estimate that before we check it with the electronic gauge. Got a filter that meets the specifications for this vehicle. When you go to your auto parts store, you can either ask or they've got guides that you can look at to determine the correct oil filter. You need a 36 millimeter axle nut here for the removing the oil filter from the vehicle. So I bought that. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that this was going to be such a large gap. Obviously, this isn't going to fit in there, so I'm going to see if I can just put this on there and get it with my hand. There's also a hole in here, so I'm thinking I might be able to put that through and be able to get some leverage. So we'll see how that works. There's a chance we'll be going back to the store to buy a wrench that's going to fit in there. The other thing, I got on a website to figure out what I would need for the oil change. I was recommended that you get a T40 for removing the oil plug on the bottom. So I bought that, and then I think this is a T20, is that right? Yeah, T20. I'm going to need that and a phillips head, I believe, for removing the plastic cover from the bottom of the Audi. So I'm going to go ahead and get some things set up, and then we'll start with removal of the plastic cover on the bottom of the vehicle. My guess is that's going to be the most frustrating part of the oil change. We'll see how that goes. One other thing I forgot to mention, this is my receipt from the auto parts store. Pretty spendy, $115.79 for the oil change. Already makes me wonder if it's worth doing myself rather than taking it in. But that did include the T40 bit and then the 36 millimeter axle nut. So you can think of those as being kind of a sunk cost at least. That's $25 and $4. Takes a little bit off the cost. Thinking I probably could have done better on the oil if I'd gone somewhere else to purchase that. So I probably won't be going back here to buy oil. But anyway, $116 for all the parts that you need for the oil change. So let me get set up and we'll remove that cover. So we got the car lifted up just a tiny bit with a floor jack. Now we're going to start by removing the Phillips screws on the rear of this plastic cover. So you got 3 in the back here. Get those 3. And then the front ones, I don't know why they would have done a different style, but that uses the Torx. And that's the T20. So we got those 3 removed. I've got to tell you, I've owned a lot of Audis, and they make them very difficult to change the oil. They have gotten a little better with the filters being on top now, compared to the older ones. But probably the most frustrating part of changing the oil on an Audi is removing this plastic cover and reinstalling it. It can be quite frustrating. quick, we'll try to locate the drain plug. Looks like we got it right here, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this is the oil pan, and that's the guy we're going to take out. Assuming that the internet's correct. That T40 fits perfectly, so I'm 95% sure this is where I want to remove the oil. But I'm going to go check the internet real quick, make sure I'm removing the right plug. My brother and my dad one time were changing the oil on their Outback, or my brother's Outback, and ended up doing a transmission fluid flush because they removed the wrong plug. Like I said, 95% sure this is the correct location. I'm going to go check the internet real quick, make sure that's correct, and I'll give you a better view of it. Alright, so the internet was not particularly helpful. I could not find any confirmation that that is the drain plug. Like I said, I'm 95% sure. I did find some pictures on the internet of a drain plug, and they look very similar to this. That's going to put me at about 96% certainty. So we're going to give it a try. I looked around, did process of elimination, figured out if anything else could be the drain plug. Nothing else looks like it would be correct. Wouldn't surprise me if Audi decided to put the drain plug in some crazy spot that you couldn't get to it. That's the only thing that worries me, is that I'm missing something. We're going to give it a try. I'll show you what we're taking a look at here. That guy right there is what I'm about to undo. So we are going to find out very soon whether that's drain plug or not for the oil. We'll get our container here to collect the oil when it comes out. Now, check this real quick. Some of the forms say that this is a hex, but this torque seems like a perfect fit. Let's see, it's kind of hard to see what it is, but it feels like a perfect fit, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to give that a try. If we feel like it's stripping it, then we'll undo it. So we're going to go righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we're going to turn to the left. There we go. A little bit loose now. See something coming out and it's black, so that is a good sign. Yep, that's oil. Getting some oil all over my wrench now. Did not expect it to start coming out like that until I had the plug out. So we'll try to minimize the mess of my garage floor. I'll just unscrew that, let it drop onto the... Ooh, it's a little warm. Guess it's recommended not to drive the vehicle before changing the oil change. Man, that was a bad idea. Usually I'm able to get that drain plug out before the oil comes out. This is odd. See if we can get it one more spin. Alright. We'll let it drain like that for now. Let's see if we can get it with that so I'm not burning my finger on the oil. It's not super hot, it's just uncomfortably warm. It's odd. Now a lot of the videos that I found on the oil change for these 3.0s, they do a oil change from the top, and so you're actually able to vacuum the oil out. I don't have one of those devices to do the vacuum. I'm not sure that I necessarily like the idea of doing it that way either. I don't know that you necessarily get all the oil out. I'm sure someone's going to tell me I'm wrong about that. It just seems like you're going to get a little more thorough change by doing the plug and really getting all of the impurities out. So I'm going to go throughout this dirty rag and let the oil drain. Now the other thing that I like to do to make sure that I get all the oil out of the engine is lower the car back down. So I've got it lifted up just a little bit right now, give me a little clearance to get that cover off. I want the car to sit completely flat so that you're getting all that oil out from in there. So I'm going to go ahead and lower it down, and you'll see that we'll get a little more oil coming out. So I'm going to remove our jack stand. Drop the floor jack. going to go ahead and just take some time, let that oil completely drain till we've got nothing more coming out. Give it a lot of time. That's one of the other things I like about doing the oil change myself, is even though I might be spending $115 on it, it might be just as good to take it in somewhere. It's nice doing it yourself and knowing that you took the time to really fully drain it, get all that oil out, and make sure it's done as well as possible. So I always like to remove the filter before putting the drain plug back on the bottom. I feel like you remove some of that negative air pressure and you're able to get that oil to flow out of the vehicle a little better. And so we're going to go ahead and use this axle nut to remove the filter. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I don't have a wrench that'll fit into the opening on this guy. I didn't think about that when I bought it, so I'm not sure this is going to work. Put it on there and see if we're able to get it by hand, or try throwing this Allen wrench in that gap and making that work. So I'm just going to try turning it by hand. It's on there pretty tight. It's not a good sign. That's what I was worried about. The joys of doing stuff yourself is that things never go as planned. Seems like it's a lot easier to take it in sometimes and let someone else do it. But you take a little pride in doing things yourself sometimes too, I guess. Whew. Okay, so that doesn't work. Let's try putting this guy in there. I don't know if I'm going to necessarily be able to get much better leverage with this towards really do anything, but we'll give it a try. Put that through there. Try pulling on it. Yeah, she's not budging. Bummer. Trip to the store might be in order. Shoot. I was hoping this would be a nice easy oil change. Get it done in no time. I just had a better grip. Maybe I could do it by hand. Oh, yeah. She's not coming. She's on there pretty good. Sad. Give it one more try. Just one more try. What's that? Yeah. Sad. Alright. It's going to seem to you like a very short period of time. I got to run to the store. Be right back. We'll continue this. So we are on our way to the store to get a wrench that'll fit this guy. I'm not going back to the same auto parts store that we bought the original part and oil and everything from, because that was $115, and that's a little much, I think. So I'm thinking we're going to get a better deal if we go to different, hardware store or something to get the wrench. So we're going to give that an attempt. See if we can find a wrench that'll fit that guy. In the meantime, I want to take this moment to express my frustration. Why is one of these necessary to get a filter off? What was so wrong with the filters that you could just remove by hand? Use one of those little tools that's strapped on and tighten it and pulled it off. I don't understand what the advantage is of this type of internal filter where you've got a casing and you remove the casing and put a filter in. Maybe you do have an idea. Leave that in the comments below if you can explain that for me and give me a little bit of peace of mind about this. Good thing is we get a little rest and recovery from the strenuous work and effort that has been put in so far. Chance for a little break, get a drink, stay hydrated in this warm weather. That one's for you, Stradman. Alright, time for another update. This is turning into a very expensive oil change. $32.99 to buy this guy. 15-inch Flex T handle, half-inch drive. Hopefully it'll come in useful for some other purpose beyond this oil change, but I highly doubt it. I've never had a need for such a large wrench before. So, yeah, $32.99. The really frustrating part, actually, when I was buying this wrench, is seeing that I could get a
keep calling this an axle. What did I call it? An axle something? Because that's what's on it. Axle nut. That's how they've got it labeled. I've always heard of it referred to as a socket. So maybe you could let me know if you got some understanding. What's the difference between an axle nut and a socket? Anyway, this axle nut socket, I told you guys earlier, $25 for that. The receipt actually said, oh, it's normally $50, so I got it for $25. What a great deal, right? Well, going in to buy this nice new wrench, they've got sockets for $9 that are the exact same thing. So, kind of frustrating. I'm not sure what the return policy is at this auto parts store. Not really sure that I want to deal with the time and effort to return it. If I had the receipt with me right now, I'm driving past it, it'd be easy to go in and, you know, take care of it. But instead, I'm just not going to shop there anymore. So it's Baxter Auto Parts, Auto Value. If you're looking for a socket, oil, filter, go somewhere else. They're going to rip you off. Alright, we're back at the house. Got our socket and our wrench all set up. And give it a try. Now we got a lot of leverage here, so hopefully big piece of cake this time. Alright, I'm feeling movement. That's a good sign. Given how much effort that took right there, though, I think it's a good thing we bought a wrench. There's no way I would have gotten that by hand. I'm sure some of you were watching me earlier in the video thinking, wow, does he really think he's going to get that with his hand? And you were right. I did not. Alright, so that's nice and loose now. I should be able to get it by hand from here. So I have not actually changed oil in a car with one of these types of filters before, so this is a new experience for me. Hoping when I pull this off that I'm going to make a huge mess or anything. Alright. Let's see if we got any oil coming out into the bottom. It's dripping. It was dripping that whole time we were gone, so I'm guessing this probably did allow. I got pretty good drip down there, so I think that let some air through and get a little more oil out now. There we go. Alright. There's the filter. Nice and dark. Definitely looks like it's due for a replacement. So, we got that open. We'll pull this guy down here, drop that old filter into here. I'm trying to keep my hands clean. It's impossible. Looks like it screws off on the bottom, so pull that off. I think that's what's going on. Screwing out. Alright, I'm just turning it in circles, nothing's happening. Give it another try. Oh, there we go, it just pulls out. So, well, maybe it pulls out. There we go. Okay. So now we can dump it in there, pull it out, and we'll be ready to put the new one on there. So I'm going to go ahead and clean the old oil off of this guy, clean up top a little bit, and then we will put the new filter on. Alright, so we pulled out the old gasket. It's inside this little canister. And now we need to put new gasket in, followed by the filter. Now it's a little dry, and so I'm just going to get a little oil from out of this canister. Just kind of rub it on there and make sure that this is nice and moist and prevent it from drying out, and hopefully help us get a little better seal once we put it in there. Just gonna get that nice and moist, and we're gonna go ahead and take this, get it in there with our finger, and then once we've got it in there pretty good, we're going to grab a flathead screwdriver and gently
Just kind of go around the perimeter and make sure that we've got it in nice and snug. Around the perimeter of this guy. Looks like pretty good. Get my finger a little more, just make sure it's all good. And they're nice and snug. And we got the new filter. So, got the old filter and the new filter for comparison. That's not necessarily telling you that much because it is oil. And I'm sure this filter is going to be looking very black very soon, but it still is satisfying to put in a nice clean filter. At least temporarily clean. So, still got some drips of oil coming through down there. We're going to let that keep draining until it gets it all. I don't see any reason why to rush the oil change. We'll just let that oil keep draining in there until we're not seeing any more drips, and then we'll go ahead and put the filter back in on top and start adding the new oil. So while I was waiting for the oil to finish up, I've been watching the Stradman, giving the Stradman a lot of shout outs on his channel, trying to get one of my own, a little bit of reciprocation. No luck on that so far, but I'm going to keep promoting him for the time being. Maybe one of these days, he'll come around and return the favor. Kind of one of those situations where you feel like you really care about someone and they really don't care about you. Or it might have to do with the fact that my videos aren't quite up to par with his and may have some impact on, respect from his viewers if he were to recommend my channel to anyone. Anyway, to the 331 of you that are subscribers right now, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for looking out for me. I'm always asking the Stradman if he's watching my videos, and he's not very good at keeping up on them. So, anyway, back to the oil change. The drips have pretty much stopped underneath the vehicle, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this filter back on. So we're going to just gently get it in position here, and then we're going to screw it on by hand until it gets pretty tight, and then we'll get the wrench out to go the remaining portion. So, again, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. We're going to turn this to the right, get on there hand tight, and then we'll tighten it. Now, if you look closely on this guy, it says something nanometers. I can't tell what it is. Oh, ooh, it's not tight all the way. Let's grab a flashlight real quick, see what that says for nanometers. 25 plus 5. Alright, there's also an arrow on there, which is very handy if you forget about the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So, as you can tell, this is not a torque wrench. Good thing is that I can feel precisely 25 plus 5 nanometers. So I'm going to know when we get there. We're getting close, I can feel it. Very close, just about there. Okay, I think we're there. Yep, we're there. Well, just a little more for good measure. Okay, we're there. Not recommended that you do it this way. If you want to do it right, torque wrench is probably the way to go. I don't own a torque wrench. Definitely not a torque wrench that's this size either. So that's going to have to do. So we got the oil filter on. I've got the oil cap loose also to let some of that oil get out from the bottom. I forgot to mention that early on. That's a good way to help relieve some of that negative air pressure. So the next step is we're going to jump back underneath the vehicle and we're going to put that drain plug back on. Alright, so we're back under the car. As you can see, there's just a little bit of a drip still going on down here. Now it would take a long time to wait for every single drip of oil to get out from the oil pan, so we don't got all day. So we're gonna go ahead. I've got one drip coming, so let's grab that drip, and then we are gonna. We've got another one forming already. So, like I said, we can't wait all day, so we're gonna go ahead and start putting this back in. It's easier to Do that by hand for starters. Got a drip coming down that now. All my tools are nice and slick and oily now. Alright, that's hand tight. That's hand tight. We're going to get ourselves a little more space down here. Pull this guy out of the way. Make sure we got this cleaned up nice. Now we're going to keep the car level. Right now it's not on the jack. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put the oil back in. We're going to start the car up, let it run for a little bit, and make sure we got the oil level at the right point. I always like to make sure that nothing's leaking under the bottom of the car once I finish the oil change, so we're going to get that all set up before we put the plastic cover back on. So, oh boy, righty-lefty gets confusing here. Underneath. Okay, so we were turning that way to tighten. Okay. So, turn that on there. Now I'm sure there's a specific amount of torque that's supposed to be applied here as well. Luckily, you know, I've got that instinct where I can just tell exactly, and that's definitely tight. I don't think we need to tighten that anymore. Maybe just a little more. Again, just for good measure. Alright, that's tight now. The real question is whether this guy's going to come out. She's doing it pretty good. Oh yeah, I can see a little movement. There we go. That's out. Let's go ahead and just a little bit of oil and stuff on there, so we'll just dry that out. Two, nice and clean. And now we are ready to add our 7.2 quarts of oil. So let's jump back up top. Alright, for this step of the process, nice to have a funnel so you don't make a mess of the engine compartment. So we're just going to clean out that funnel, make sure there's no dust or anything in there since we last used it. We're going to take off this cap and throw this funnel in there and then start with our first quart of oil. Pop this cap and begin the pour. Now you don't want to go too quickly with this. Throw too much oil in all at once. Again, might be able to get out the bottom of the funnel and make a mess. Always feels good putting this nice clean oil back in. Alright, we'll let that one drain. And we're going to repeat that 7.2 more times. Sorry, we're going to repeat that 6.2 more times to get to a total of 7.2. Alright, so that is 7. So now we got the 7.2. Now I noticed the bottle's got over here, you got milliliters up to 800. So 1,000 would be 1 quart. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to get the oil from this level right down to 800. So we're going to pour it in there slowly. And we'll check and see if we're at the correct oil level. So we're still a little above that 800 mark. So we'll pour a little more in. Check it again. And it looks like we're good, right about 800. So screw that cap back on. We're gonna take the funnel out. I'm gonna put the oil cap back in here. And we're gonna start up the car and let it run for a couple minutes. Let that oil circulate through the engine. And then we'll do a check to see where our oil level's at. So I had a 2009 Audi A4, and when I changed the oil on that, what I found was when you did the oil change, you had to turn the engine on and warm it up and
basically it took a few minutes before you could actually get an accurate reading on the oil. So it looks like it's a little different in the 2013. They may have made some improvements to the system. So what we're going to do is down here on the infotainment system, we're going to go to the car button. And we've got a couple things to change. So we're going to go to car systems. We're going to press the button for that. Scroll over to servicing and checks. And first thing we want to do is go down and check service intervals. So as you can see, Nick's oil change is due in 100 miles, Nick's service in 100. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down and we're going to reset the oil change interval now that we've changed the oil. We'll confirm yes, we're ready to change it. So now we're good for 10,000 miles, according to the car. So now we're going to go back to the last screen and you can scroll up to oil level. And you can see here, interestingly, it was actually down a little lower before. Now it's got me up to the max. So it's giving us a reading there. We're going to go ahead, like I mentioned, we're going to turn the car on. We're going to let it run for a few minutes and check to see where that oil level's at. We're also going to jump out of the car and we're going to make sure that we don't have any oil leak on the bottom, any oil spraying out of the hood or anything. Really important when you're changing oil, you got to make sure that you get the filter on, you get the drain plug in there, and you get the oil cap back on. It can be really easy to miss one of those steps sometimes and assume that you did it and then realize you didn't. Especially when you're making one of these videos and you're a little distracted by that. Definitely slows down the process and can be a distraction. So let's go ahead and turn her on. So we got a running vehicle, that's a good sign. Not hearing anything too concerning. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to let the engine go ahead and run for a few minutes, get that oil circulating, and let's go take a look up front. Alright, so check 1, check 2, got no oil coming out either of those locations, so that's a good sign. Jump down underneath, nothing on the floor, looks like we're good to go. So we're just going to let that run for a minute or two. Then we will check the oil level again, see how we're doing there. So jumping back into the vehicle, doesn't look like anything's changed as far as the oil level. What I'll do is in the next day or two, I will go ahead and check it and make sure that everything looks good. You can see here it says oil level okay, so the car was able to check it now that it's up and running and warm. But again, it's safe just to check it again the next day or two. Make sure that you're still good, that drain plug was on there snugly, you're not losing oil somewhere, or anything like that. So looks like we're good on that, so we'll go ahead and we'll turn the car back off. Next step is what I've been dreading all along. It's time to put the cover back on the bottom. Alright, so we're back underneath. What we're going to do first is we're going to get the front of the cover. We've got these little lips on the front. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get those reinserted where they go. Slide that into place. Make sure we got them nice and snug up front. I'm going to make sure all the lips are in. Okay, so we got all those. I'm going to get a couple of these front ones secured first, just so that the cover doesn't have the ability to move at all. We'll kind of work our way from front to the back. So we'll get this whole front row complete, slowly work our way to the back, and then do the phillips head screws last. Got that one on. I like that the cover's got these little lips in the front. I think that helps a lot over the old style of Audi covers. The other nice thing is that the old ones, a lot of them had these little metal strips that kind of move as you're trying to screw in. It's nice that with this new design, they're all nice and fixed. So it looks like our cover might have slid forward a little bit, so we might have trouble getting this one in. I might have to loosen the other ones a little bit. Well, that'll be good. There we go. I guess maybe what would have been better is to get these
inserted, screw them in just a little bit, and then tighten them. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen these other two. So we got it on there a little crooked to where the holes aren't lining up perfectly on this side now. So yeah, there we go. Now we can get that one in. So we'll get these all in and then we'll tighten them. Cover is back on. Oil change is complete. Alright, so now that the oil change is complete, the last step of the process is to recycle the oil. So I've heard a lot of stories from people how in the past you used to just take your oil and dump it on the side of the house, or when you were draining it from the vehicle, you just take the drain plug, open it up, and just let it drain onto the ground. Came from the ground, so why not put it back, right? Well, fortunately, we've kind of moved on from those days. So most garbage and recycling companies, or at least mine, will take the oil on the street. So got to put it in a clear container, mark it as motor oil, and then they will pick it up with just normal recycling. Now, to celebrate the oil change of a classy vehicle, you've got to enjoy a classy snack. So we got an otter pop here. That right there is a sign of experience that I grew up on these bad boys. I don't get to experience them as often anymore, but I got a few in the fridge and I figured this was a perfect moment to enjoy the delicious taste. That's for you, Stradman. So the oil change is complete. Actually went pretty smooth. Few lessons learned. I'd say, for starters, make sure that you've got a big wrench to go with the 36mm socket. When you buy the socket and the wrench, go to a hardware store. Don't go to your auto parts store. You're going to pay a lot more there. Also, don't go to Auto Value, Baxter Auto Parts. They're a ripoff. I think I'm going to go somewhere else to get the oil in the future. And beyond that, it really wasn't that bad. Would I do it again? I bought a $25 socket and a $32 wrench. So to get my money's worth, yes, I'll be doing it again. If I were to go back, would I do it again? I think I would. It wasn't that bad. Filter is easy to get to. Plastic cover is kind of a pain to remove and reinstall, but it's not that bad. And once you get down there, drain plug's easy to get to. It's pretty simple overall. So anyway, that is an overview of changing the oil on the 2013 Audi Q5 with the 3.0T. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's applicable oil change for any of the Audis with the 3.0 engine. You might see a few small differences from this video, but overall it's going to be basically the same. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments below. For more videos on the 2013 Audi Q5, subscribe to the channel, and I've got some more planned in the works.